I have started thus far the four I've written, the next two, of the reviews for the Star Trek novelizations the same way. I love Star Trek. And I do. I do. I start the written reviews that way because some people may think that biases me. I know from my own experience, if anything, it makes me more likely to yell at the issues. And if you watch some of the videos, well, maybe not yelling, but I definitely go at them in the novelizations and such. And I'm not unique in loving Star Trek. I care about Star Trek as well. I value it. I am not among those people, though, because there are some who can very honestly say they became an engineer because of Scotty or because of Geordi. They became a doctor because of Bones. They joined the military or the Navy specifically because of just Star Trek itself and seeing Starfleet. And of course, just remembered, how could I have forgotten the very important story of Martin Luther King Jr. visiting Nichelle Nichols, asking her to stay, praising her for her role as Lieutenant Uhura. I believe she was only Lieutenant at the time of the original series when this visit occurred, because of how she showed a black woman in a competent role there. You're not just a token, but no. She was there because she was good at her job. Star Trek is of value to a lot of people. And for that reason, and this applies for many different stories, it's not limited to Star Trek and Star Trek fans, we do get to defend it as well. Defend it from bad stories, just part of why I call out the errors and such in the stories I've read. We get to defend it from people mischaracterizing it. In this case, I'm going to try to defend it from somebody who is certainly very connected to Star Trek, but is saying something that is not Star Trek. I would even say it is antithetical to Star Trek. So this was shared by Tim Russ, who played Tuvok in Star Trek Voyager. And I don't want to read it. Seen enough. I don't even want to leave it up there. Because it is not Star Trek. It is not. Here's my proof. Although there's certainly more proof than this, I feel that this just captures it very nicely. So this is Admiral Kirk talking to Lieutenant Saavik during the debriefing after the Kobayashi Maru at the start of Wrath of Khan. You are on a ship, a sailing ship, an ocean-going vessel. It sinks. You find yourself in a life raft with one other person. The life raft is damaged. It might support one person, but not two. How would you go about persuading the other person to let you have the raft? I would not, she said. No? Why? Okay, scratch it. I have to skip some because they put a joke in here, but... So, I would not. Oh, really? You're a highly educated Starfleet officer. Suppose the other person was completely illiterate, had no family, spent most of the time getting thrown in jail, and never had any job a low-level robot couldn't do. Then what? I would neither request nor attempt to order or persuade any civilian to sacrifice their life for mine. But a lot of resources are invested in your training. Don't you think you owe it to society to preserve yourself so you can carry out your responsibilities? Her high-arched eyebrows drew together. Is this what you believe, Admiral? I'm not being raided, Lieutenant. You are. I've asked you a serious question, and you've replied with what could be considered appalling false modesty. Saavik stood up angrily. You asked me if I should preserve myself so I can carry out my responsibilities. Then I ask you, what are my responsibilities? By the criteria you have named, my responsibilities are to preserve myself so I can carry out my responsibilities. This is a circular and self-justifying argument. It is immoral in the extreme. A just society, and if I'm not mistaken, the Federation considers itself to be just, employs a military for one reason alone, to protect its civilians. If we decide to judge that some civilians are worth protecting and some are not, if we decide we are too important to be risked, then we destroy our own purpose. We cease to be the servants of our society, we become its tyrants. That is the ideal of Starfleet that she has voiced here. That is also Star Trek, because Star Trek very much is of that view that we're all equal. We all matter equally. The worth of each civilian is the same. Well, really, each citizen. Though, once joining the military, Starfleet, you then gain the responsibility that means, no, the civilian must be protected, and you must be willing to sacrifice for that. And it's worth noting that Saavik has not always been a citizen of the Federation. She is half Romulan. She grew up in a Romulan colony, which this was not a good way to grow up, because the Romulan government denies the existence of such half-breeds as her. So she would have just been scrounging and scratching for survival, and undoubtedly was subjected to various levels of physical abuse over that time as well, because no one cared about her. And it is also worth knowing that in Search for Spock, it is revealed that she, like all Romulan children, actually are branded shortly after birth. So, again, physically abused. But despite all that, she went on to join Starfleet and to so strongly believe in that principle that is part of Starfleet, that potentially some of the fellow cadets have forgotten. Or maybe just they haven't thought about it recently enough. That is Star Trek. That is Starfleet. And as a fan who loves Star Trek, I wanted to read that to defend it, because the words shared by Mr. Russ are not Star Trek. That's about all I have to say on that. They are not Star Trek. I guess I should add, this does not make me less inclined to watch Voyager. I already consider it the weakest of the 90s Star Trek. It does not make me less inclined. I have my DVD set down there. I have no intention of getting rid of it, because I can separate art and artist. You're free to make your own decisions on that. Of course, be only peaceful with it. If you choose to never watch Voyager, so be it. This will not stop me. I just can see and am saying here, that is not Star Trek. I value it too much to not defend it. Yes, just one other thing I will say. Wrath of Khan, excellent novelization, excellent story. Definitely recommend reading it. Search for Spock, that's also in here. This is the novelizations for the Star Trek trilogy. Search for Spock, also pretty good. Voyage Home, not so much. But, yeah, so just, I'll try to remember to put a link to Barnes & Noble for buying it. That's where I bought my copy. So, yeah, you may want to get it. They are quite good. Okay. See you next time.